I think we're live, right?
We're live.
We are live.
Guys, it's your two poly tricks, and today we have two special guests, and well, actually three special guests. I should say three. We have Dev and David, and we also have my son Donovan, who's in the background talking. But today we're going to discuss sports, the topic that's usually close at heart with most men, and it's like the one thing that gets them going, and they can meet. I mean, I don't know how many times we've met people in the park and they just start talking based on one conversation. So I'm gonna ask y'all my question: who do y'all have to make it to the finals for the NBA championship? Whoever wants to go first.
Phoenix Suns will win the championship.
Why?
Devin Booker.
Okay.
That is not the reason.
Devin Booker is ready.
It's
Chris Paul is there, but Devin Booker is
Chris Paul. It's Chris
Okay.
Paul. Chris Paul.
I was hoping to Giannis to get it because the Bucks haven't won one since Kareem Abdul-Jabbar was Lou Alcindor, but they're not looking like a championship team right now. So
wait, you said, who did you say, Dev?
I said I wanted the Bucks to win it this year,
Bucks,
but they're not looking like a championship team with that last performance. So
okay. And Dave, you said the Suns.
I think the Sun is going to win. Number one is Devin Booker. Looks like he's ready to ascend to the next level. Also, Chris Paul being one of the old heads. I'm still rooting for the guys that's old heads, playing the game the right way, leading the team without having to score all the points. He's just teaching them how to be NBA professional basketball players. I believe that he's going to help them win the championship, and it will be good for his career. He's going to be a Hall of Famer either way, but it'll be basically a first ballot for sure Hall of Famer. He gets this championship.
definitely.
Well, Donnie wanted to say something about Chris Paul and his stats. I don't know what he was saying. You were saying something about his assists. You wanted to say that?
He got 11 assists a game.
Oh.
And he had the most points in like the game 4. And that's it.
That's it.
But
Okay.
I have a different team that I think that's gonna win.
Who? You gotta say it. We live. You gotta keep going. Keep going.
Lakers.
The Lakers.
That's like
Son,
okay, whatever.
Save your wishes for something else.
Lakers is a long ways from winning a championship.
Yeah, save your wishes. Save your wishes.
Yeah,
All
sorry.
right.
No, I think it's gonna be the Milwaukee Bucks.
Okay, so it's 2 for the Bucks and 1 for the Suns. Okay, I do hope Giannis wins. I do hope.
The reason I think is the Bucks. It's because Giannis travels a lot.
Okay, does Giannis really travel a lot?
So we better get on this topic. Let's travel to the topic.
Okay.
No, we are on the topic. We're talking about the sport. Does he travel a lot?
Yes.
Oh,
Right,
okay.
Dave?
Well, Dev, you the referee, so you tell me. I believe he does.
Well, I feel like this NBA strides are a little long, so they kind of let them get a hop in 2 steps. So if you look at Giannis's strides, he does a lot of hopping in his 2 steps. Unlike they don't let high school kids get away with that, they don't let the college kids get away with it. But the pros, they have a tendency of letting them get a jump plus their movement. So
They get like 2.5 in the pros. They get 2.5.
Yeah, 2.5. So if you're looking at the pros, opposed to, but the problem is kids mimic what the pros do.
Exactly. Yeah, and I found that out when I train the kids, and I'm trying to get them to do certain moves, and they see the James Harden step back, and the James Harden step back is a trap. However, because James Harden has a hop in his step back, not just because he's doing the step back, and 100% he's traveling, but nobody's going to call that in the league because he's one of the elite stars of the league. You're not going to call it. So when the kids are in high school trying to do this move, they're getting a lot of travel calls, and they don't understand why. And that's the main reason, because they're getting that half step on the hop.
And you talk about someone that does sports, does high school sports, and trying to explain that to a kid that's says it on TV, see it on TV all the time and wondering why. That's not a travel. You cannot do, like, you can't grab the ball, take 2 steps, and then make a move. You can't do that. But what the bad habits a lot of the kids are getting from the pros, watching the pro game, and it doesn't translate unless you're a pro. I said, once you're on TV with an NBA logo on, you can do all that stuff. But at this level, no, you can't do it. And it's with guys, it's with girls basketball, guys basketball, even with the NFL, because I also do football. There's a lot of other sports that they look at stuff in the pros and think it translate to the younger kids, and they pick up a lot of bad habits just like that because they want to accelerate the game at the pro level.
Right. I actually tell my kids to watch WNBA
because they're
because
more, I was gonna say they're more fundamental. I know you usually say that. So what we're gonna because I told y'all. So that is point blank. So that was what I wanted to show right there. How these two just started talking. They know of each other. They've spoke to each other before, but they've never had contact. And look at what's happening. They're going back and forth. They could talk all night apparently on this topic. So it's like we gotta just jump in and be like
yeah, no, but that's not me with basketball, but I'm a baseball fan. That's me.
So and that's the thing. Yeah. It's something with sports, and specifically with men in sports that has, I don't know what it is, but what I wanted to discuss is how sports creates like a brotherhood. It teaches you teamwork, sportsmanship, and character. What do you guys think about sports doing that, and how does it teach teamwork, sportsmanship, and create like a brotherhood for some people, I'll say. So whoever wants to take that first.
I believe that sports does create a brotherhood or sisterhood for that matter, in girl sports, because it gives them an opportunity to bond and create peer-to-peer relationships that can be used for networking later on in life in corporate America, as well as in entrepreneurship and things of that nature. You will see a lot of teammates, take the LeBron situation, for example, where, all of his teammates have a role in what he is doing with his professional career. That doesn't happen without team sports in the youth when they were growing up. So I really believe that that youth sports is an opportunity for kids to build relationships that's going to be lifelong and can help them with their future.
Yeah. What do you think?
Well, that's definitely, like, I've been involved in sports at different capacities, and I've seen people flourish and grow because they had sports in their lives. That's something that, it's not appreciated as much because it gets a bad stigma, because a lot of urban communities, we excel in athletics, but they don't appreciate that. It gets a lot of kids out of trouble. It keeps a lot of kids off the streets. It gives young people opportunities, and it gives them a work ethic, because if you got to go to practice at 7 a.m. every day, what does that translate in the future? You got to get to go to work at 7 o'clock every day. If you learn to where that life isn't fair, sometimes you don't get a call. Just like in the workforce, life isn't fair. You may work with people you don't like. And a lot of times when you played in sports your entire life, you know that I may not like you, but I got to work with you. Sports teaches that. And a lot of times those little nuances when it comes to the day-to-day activities in sports, that it doesn't get appreciated when we become older.
Right.
Because I know, just like if you played sports as long as I have and was around people, you didn't like every teammate you had. Every teammate was not your friend. Every coach you didn't like, but you knew that you had a goal and you had an agenda, and that was your golden agenda to get through that season, to get through that tournament, and that's what you did. And it translates into the job. So,
the only thing I think, Devon, I agree with you on that. The only thing I think with the stigma in the schools that I taught in with sports, I would have liked to see an expanded version of sports, more like other things other than basketball, football, baseball. I would have liked to see them also get opportunities to do things that like there's smaller kids that can't do football maybe, but they could probably do either fencing or something else. So I think the schools are underfunded in terms of limiting the options for the different sports for different types of people, because you may not be able to play football, but you may not be tall enough to play basketball, but you might be able to do something else.
Well, Cindy, let me jump in there for that. Basically, schools have many different sports. Not every sport is going to be offered at every school, but you have bowling. Some schools have. They have swimming. But basically, the question is that I'm understanding is concerning how sports affect youth and their life.
Right.
And any sport, in my opinion, that has a coach and have teammates and things of that nature is doing exactly what we are talking about right now.
That's not, what I'm saying is nothing to do with that part, what you're saying. I was responding to something specifically Devon said, which was that, there's some stigmas attached to sports. I was like, yeah, I agree with that. But I would also like to see our students, which are the boys, play more sports that are more broad. You're not going to find bowling in New York City public school. You're just not going to find it.
That's not at a high school level. It is.
Yeah,
a lot of schools have those sports, but the problem is funding. It's not even necessarily funding. It's a lot of times you may have a group of kids that may be into it. Then the following season, nobody does it. So that money that's because I know they had right now New York City doing a strong initiative for girls flag football, and it's been harder to get girls to want to do it. So girls say, we want this. You may have 4 to 7 years of girls wanting to do it. Now coaches are fighting to get kids involved. So it's not necessarily because remember, you may have that one group that want to do it, but you may have to remember to keep a program going, it's money and if there's no funding for it, even if they get up the funding, you have to consecutively get the bodies
point
to
right
do it.
there, though. You see the good sports out on Long Island. I was a mentor in the New York City public schools. I traveled to all the schools in the city. There's very limited amount of sports from funding, from support of having a coach available and all that good stuff. That's off the topic, but I was just talking about when you said that you thought that that there was a stigma. And I say, yeah, there is a stigma. My personal wish for sports, which is the topic, is that we can have a more of a variety in the public school in New York City. Long Island has a lot of sports you never even heard of. And I know that because I studied to be a principal on Long Island, and they have good sports.
And that's what I was gonna say. I think it's also the funding and where you are. But the bowling, baby daddy David was on the bowling team in Tilden, so they have bowling.
How long ago was that, Tim? Tilden don't even exist anymore.
Oh well, I'm saying, but
that's my point.
Yes, they do. It's called Tilden Campus.
It's different.
It's broken up. It's not Tilden anymore.
It's Tilden Campus.
But it's not the school itself. It's 500, like you're asking, same thing. All the big schools are broken up, but they wouldn't call it Tilden anymore. They'd call it campus.
But I'm saying they just the like saying it's not there. Those, and of course, a variety of sports is needed in all schools. And I mean,
that's my point.
At the school where we live, there's like things we've never even heard of.
Well, look where you are.
Right. But so I agree to a certain point that is a variety of sports that's needed, but then the funding also is needed too, like everybody is saying. But one of the things David and I always talk about is the fact that kids today and kids turn into adults, they have no idea how to lose. They can't face adversity. They don't know what to do when something happens that's bad. They crumble and they roll into a corner and almost like want to die. And so part of being on a sports team or being in sports teaches you that you may fail and that you may have adversity. And so that's what I was going to ask. Is that part of the sports complexion? Like, what do you guys think? And how did you feel with your first failure in any part of sport? How did you guys handle it? Did you crumble up and die? Because you're still here. Let me see. Y'all both here. So like, what did you do?
I really believe that
I'm just gonna say David's acting like he's all studious and go ahead.
Well, see this is also dealing with sports. What I'm doing right now. because basically when you are playing sports, you learn the aspects of winning and losing. You also learn how to build self-confidence within yourself and build that character that's necessary for you to go out there and get what you want. So for example, I can tell a story about me in 7th grade. I thought I was a pretty good basketball player in 7th grade. I went out for the team, and I was actually cut from the team in the lunchroom by the coach on the megaphone in front of everybody. I was cut. And that could have went one or two ways with my personality. I could have either went in the back and cried and never played basketball again, or either I can choose B, which is what my choice was to go and work harder and develop my game better to make it appear that the coach made a mistake. Nowadays, of course, that coach that cut me today is one of the things that I basically appreciate in my life, because he taught me to carry a chip on my shoulder, to actually be a person that will outwork with anybody in order to get where I want. And I translate that to my corporate career. I translate that to anything that I'm trying to aspire to do. And that helps in my personal life. So if people play sports and they get that type of development during sports where they deal with adversity, maybe they don't make the team the first time, they have to work hard and make the team the second time, or maybe they make the team, but then they get demoted and they get benched, and then they have to get their position back. To me, that builds character, that builds self-respect, and it also helps you with that personal adversity in your own life, where you can develop into a stronger person and handle those situations better, so you can produce later on in life for your children and your family. And I really believe that helped me personally, going through that situation.
Yeah, I agree. And now, I mean, before you answer, Dev, I'm sorry. I just want to say, nowadays, everybody also gets a trophy, and that ticks me the hell off. Everybody getting a trophy. You're getting the same thing as the winner. You're getting the same thing as the loser. It's like, well, what are you aspiring to? Like, we need to lose in order to feel the success of winning. Like, that's just my opinion. But go ahead, Deb. How did you handle your first failure?
Well, when I first really started playing ball, one of my biggest, like, the first time I played in an organized, because I was in the park, played in the park, I was pretty decent but when I went and playing under the whistle, I was lost. And the kids were mocking me, calling me, "Oh, you're just a park player. You're a park player. You don't really play under the whistle. You don't know how to play with a ref. You're a park player." And I'm thinking we all started in the park. Like, I don't know too many kids that started the first time they pick up a basketball is under an organized setting.
Yeah.
But I started playing like when I was like 13. So I'm 13 for basketball. That's kind of late because I played a bunch of other sports. So, I mean, that moment right there, you're literally in a gym full of people. Everyone's laughing at me. I'm sitting in 3 seconds. I'm traveling, not realizing I'm jumping off the wrong foot. I'm straight getting mocked. And I could have been like,
what you say? I didn't hear the last thing.
I'm getting mocked. They're mocking. They're teasing me. They're calling me all types. "Oh, you know what you're doing, da da da." So I could have easily took the ball, threw it at somebody, said some choice words, threw a punch or two, and kept it pushing. But I'm like, you know what? I went to the park by myself and I practiced by myself and I honed the game. So it wasn't like, okay, so I see that to go further along. 20, 15 years later, I'm refereeing a game. I'm in a gym with like a couple of hundred people. And I didn't have the proper angle to make a proper call.
Okay.
And I blew a call. And it was, as soon as I did it, in my brain, I was like, "Damn, you blew it." But at that exact moment, if I didn't go through what I went through when I was a kid, and when I was getting laughed at in a gym with only 20, 30 people, when I was an adult, when it happened, I had to just shake it off and get ready for the next play.
Wow.
because as an official, you don't get to live with that one bad call for the whole game. You got the rest of the game to go. So I made the call wasn't the greatest call. One coach said, one coach said, the kid said, the crowd went crazy. But I was still out there like, red 23, go, next call. But I only got that because you had that block it out, keep on going.
Yeah.
But kids nowadays, they kind of live with it. You know, they live with that. Kids committing, I mean, I know this off the top of it. Kids are self-harming for sports. They want to hurt somebody for sports. If I would self-harm myself, then tomorrow's the next day. They don't even think about tomorrow's another day. They think at that moment, the world ends at that moment. And as a person that was into sports for so many years, you can the next day you can get it right. And that's kind of what I've always done.
That makes a segue into the next question. But before that, I'm glad you mentioned about the your bad calls, because I'm a baseball fan and I'll be wondering, how do the umpires live with afterwards blowing a call like for a perfect game or there's some real anger. People be like death threats.
Yeah.
You blew his perfect game because of a bad call. You go back and look at it, the call was wrong, but you really can't live in it. You really can't.
You can't. You can't live on. Because as a person that does, and I'm certified in like 6 sports.
Wow.
And you can't in the mentality that I go in the mentality like I still played. If I missed a layup, I can't go be down on myself because I'm going to miss a rebound in a layup. I'm going to miss a pass.
It's going to get in your head. Yeah, it's going to get in your head.
Yeah. So that one time, you don't let it stop. You just keep on. You got to keep on going.
I'm just gonna say what V said. She said she had to suck it up and do better the next time, and that's basically what you guys are saying. Suck it up and do better the next time. Like, that's it. Don't just let that stop you. Thanks for joining us, V and Tiffany. Thank you guys for joining us.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Go ahead.
Turn it over to you. Just to jump in before we change subjects, it's very important, that we relay what we went through in our childhood to the kids today. And I try to do as much as I can to tell every single kid that I train that they're gonna fail and you're gonna lose sometimes. And then it's all about what you do after the loss. Did you go back to the gym and put up 100 jump shots because you missed that shot? Or did you go and do more push-ups because someone pushed you out of the way and got a rebound? These are the things that build character. That's going to help them. They may not, we may be talking to kids that never become NBA players or never become Major League Baseball players or whatever, right? But they may be CEOs. They may be inventors. They may be entrepreneurs. They may be presidents that we're talking to, that we're building character today. So, I employ anybody that's dealing with the kids. They understand that they teach them about adversity and teach them that it's going to build confidence for them in the future. And don't let one loss deter them from playing a sport that they love.
Right. Which is the segue.
But go ahead, Cindy.
Which is the segue to the question of, instead of playing, what are the alternatives if you are in sports? You mentioned one, Devon, Devon, that's coaching. So what are some of the alternatives that they can have if they don't make it to the big leagues or whatever, make it to the NBA, the NFL, that stuff? What are some of the things they can do?
Well, they also can do, some things, of course, just like Devin says, you can get into coaching, but there's some other different ways that you can make it to the NBA. You can be a journalist. You can be a radio host. You can be
a sports writer.
You can be a team manager, a sports writer. You can be a person that scouts and goes out and find them players. You can become an agent. You can be helping people become an NBA player. So there's many different avenues that a person can take in order to actually become part of the league. I wish someone would have gave me that conversation when I decided to go to school and go to college, being a 5'4" point guard.
We can't tell that from the screen. Wait, we can't tell that your size from the screen, D.
Exactly. But however, if you ask anybody to actually know me from my days in high school and going into college, matter of fact, all the way back to middle school, they'll tell you how good of a basketball player I was.
Right.
The opportunity for me to be a professional was probably non-existent for me, but in most people's eyes, I had an opportunity just because of the way I played the game.
Right.
So if I would have been able to have that conversation with a coach or a mentor that understood there were different avenues how to get to the league, maybe I could have became a coach, or maybe I would have became, something else that was involved with the NBA, and I could have went that route. But
I love that you said that, because my sister and I, we played tennis, but that was before Serena and Venus. So they weren't a lot of tennis players that look like we look. Bigger hips and all of that stuff. They were skinny girls, and nobody said you could still do it. You just got to be fit. You got to have stamina. We weren't told that. So it's true what you said. If you were told differently, you probably still could have gone on with it. If you quick, you fast, and you skilled, hey.
Well, no, he's saying that if he was told that there was other alternatives,
alternatives, right,
to be within the sports arena, because just with my younger cousin, he's actually he was looking at playing sports and doing something overseas. But we also introduced the fact that the NBA is hiring most professional sports are hiring psychologists now. So you can be a psychologist.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there's a big push for mental health within the NBA, NFL, everything. You could be a psychologist. You could be they're saying you could be behind the camera. You can be one of the statisticians that actually calculate the stats for the games. There's so many other ways.
I thought you were saying you could have still played if somebody said even though you were short, you could still play.
No, he was saying.
What I'm trying to explain is that there are opportunities for people like me that understand the game to help other people that just have better physical attributes.
Right.
As a trainer, for example, I train the kids right now to play sports. My job is to give them that ammunition to make the next level team, to teach them how to play, so that way when they get in front of the next coach, they appear to be advanced. They appear to have the opportunity to learn a set offense or a set defense in basketball. That's my job as a trainer. I'm also, now what I'm saying is that if back in the day, if someone would have also gave me the conversation to say, hey, if you don't make the NBA, what is your plan? What are you going to do if you don't make the NBA? Because a lot of kids around there, if you ask them what they want to do, they're going to say, I want to be a professional basketball player. I want to be an NFL star. But let's just be honest. In most cases, even if you get drafted, you still don't make the team. So they have to have a different plan. And the plan could be statistician, could be trainer, could be coach, could be any avenue to stay active in sports. And that's what we need to tell our youth, that just because you lose one aspect, that don't mean that you have to get away from the game and never play or never participate for that matter. So that's the message that we try to, at least I'm trying to give all my youth at this point.
Go ahead,
because with me, one thing I was lucky. I was lucky that I bumped into officiating at the age of like 19, going on 20. Someone was giving a free class to referee basketball. I came back from school and I just took the class because I looked at it as an avenue to learn the rules so I could manipulate it better on the court.
Right.
I never thought I was gonna, like 26 years later, I would still be officiating and officiating more sports.
Wow.
But that's something that a lot of kids don't realize, that being an official, every sport needs an official. Every sport needs, and a lot of times they like the professional sports, they want people young so they can mold them. Like at the age of graduating from high school, after college, they're looking for people to want to learn how to officiate for different sports. And I was lucked up. I was there at the right time, but I didn't have the right people or the resources to take it further than I did. So, but when I really started taking it serious, okay, I'm really going to focus and do this for real, I was in my 30s.
I was saying you're too old by then.
But I never stopped refereeing for my entire adult life. So officiating is something that a lot of kids don't look at, but that's something that they can do. Being into the health profession, being everything from being a massage therapist, this is stuff that I was still involved in sports because I always knew, even when I stopped playing, I always wanted to be involved with sports, and I knew I didn't want to coach. But I already was officiating for most of my entire adult life, so it was an easy transition to get from playing to officiating. and just picking up other sports, because I'm like, okay, they're like, well, you know rules. You just gotta just learn this sport and learn the sports rules. So I picked up football, then I picked up lacrosse, and because I learned how to rules and how to adjudicate rules, and something that people you can pick it up young. Like I was doing it and playing college ball at the same time, so it can be done. Like kids don't realize that everyone's not going to make it to the pros, but at every level of it, you need officials. You need somebody that can adjudicate the rules and be fair. You know, they're looking for fair officials, and it's a way for people to do it. And it's it's good because now you see kids that's playing lacrosse. Now I'm seeing more Black kids playing lacrosse. Now they're seeing a guy with locks in their neighborhood officiating this sport, which at one point we didn't really play it. So now when you see guys see me, they say, hold up, this referee got locks and he's refereeing lacrosse? That was almost unheard of.
Yeah. And see, and I'm sorry, that I was gonna say that's something that you guys are both saying, and it's important for us to teach our youth that there's other alternatives aside from just being the player, the superstar player. And we tell Donnie that all the time. You can be, because he's so good at math, we say you can be a statistician and sit there and crunch the numbers and still watch the game and be right here
for free.
And be making a lot of the money, and you can still walk down the street without having the strife of being in the limelight. And so I mean I think that's a big deal. So one of the things that we talked about was the different types of sports and funding for sports, because funding gets a lot of kids in colleges. It gets a lot of, sports gets a lot of kids in colleges. It gets a lot of kids in the door for their education. And there's different types of funding for sports. Like Dev said, lacrosse is one of them, where you have minority kids getting into lacrosse. They're going to get funding for certain types of schools, and they're not, and there's so much money that's sitting there waiting, and no one's taking that. So what do you guys have to say about that? And wait, before in addition to that question, how do you guys feel about the Black athletes not attending HBCUs as well? So we can combine those two questions with the funding sports and Black athletes not going to HBCUs.
All right, so I can actually just tell you, I'll tell you right now, calculate at home. 90 times 90, 900.
What? I don't know. He wasn't drinking Kool-Aid.
He needs his Wheaties or his salmon, some protein.
He really wanted to be a part of the conversation. But go ahead, Donnie. You can go sit down.
That's okay.
You can go sit down. You can go sit down.
It's live, y'all. Sorry. And let me just say, hey, Demetrius, thanks for watching. Thanks guys for joining us. Thanks for
Venezia. Venezia? Is it Venezia? Venezia?
Yeah, it's V, just V.
V, okay.
To answer your question about the historical Black colleges and universities, it kind of ties into the funding of the previous schools. Because see, most players that have the ability to make it to the NBA, they want to go to the places that's going to give them the facilities to get better, the coaching to get better, and things of that nature. What's happening at the smaller schools, they don't have the funding that's needed in order to actually keep those students in those schools and then be able to develop them for the next level. There's only one way that's going to change. There's only one. And that means that the players that are the best players in the country, especially if they are Black players, they need to attend those schools and that way those schools would then be able to garner the sponsorships that's happening from places like Nike and Adidas and all these companies, Cash App, and things of that nature that are putting money into players. Because basically, if they start going into those schools and starting to be graduating from those schools and becoming alumni from those schools, once they do make the league, they can then give back to those schools and start building the foundation for those schools to have those type of players in the future. Because realistically, the coaching is not going to be too much different. the historical Black college and university probably got a better coach. And the problem is they don't have the facilities in order to garnish that player. And they're not going to be on national TV. They're not going to get, the Big Five school money and things of that nature, especially in football. It's big in football. But if you don't go to the certain schools, those schools are not going to be on TV. So of course you're not going to get seen as much. So it's harder to find you. So now instead of being a first round pick, now you're a 7th round pick or a free agent because of what school you went to. So that affects your pocket as well. So that's why a lot of those kids that are, number 1 prospects or in the ESPN top 100, etc., they're not going to go there because they feel like they don't have a chance to make the league if they make that decision. But I'm hoping that changes in the future, that it gives opportunity for the smaller schools to have someone there to build their school up. And
that's what I was going to say. I was going to pose that question, not another question, but I was going to say that can't that change if more of us decide to go to the HBCUs? Then the funding follows the players, no?
Correct.
I'll leave that to
Dev. The funding is going to follow the player. It happens on travel basketball, AAU circuit. It's all over the place. If you have the player, then the money is going to follow you. I mean, you can, take LeBron James' kid, for example, Bronny James, great basketball player. If he was to decide to go to a HSBU and go and do that for 2 years, go to Hampton or go to or something like that, and go and do that for 2 years and make the NCAA tournament and go in there. He don't have to win the championship. Just make the tournament. Just do it. Right? And he does that for 2 years and then goes on and play in the league because he's more than likely gonna make the NBA anyway. If he does that, right? That school, whoever he chooses, is gonna make so much money on his likeness that they're gonna be able to help future generations at least for 5 to 10 years just because he went there. And I mean, take a guy like, he's not Black, but take a guy like Tim Tebow, for example, right? When he went to Florida, he brought Florida so much money that they still talking about Tebow today. That would happen if a guy like Bronny James went to, a historically Black university. Of course, it may not happen. I'm just using him as an example. Yeah, but if that happened, all the kids come behind him might say, "Hey, I can do that. I can change that school." Look what Steph Curry did for Davis. That school is still reaping the benefits from having Steph Curry. So it's just one of those different things where the kids have to make decisions that's best for their life, but it's also, taking the opportunity to go and change people's life for future generations. And we just have to have people that's willing to take that step.
Okay. And I was going to ask the same question. I mean, how do you feel, or ask what your thoughts were about that, Dev? Do you feel the same way as far as the funding and having it change?
A lot of the colleges have a pipeline to the pros. And the problem is all the historical Black colleges don't have that pipeline. Back in the days when it comes to football, a lot of football players came from historical Black colleges. But the thing was, though, a lot of those big colleges started going to those towns where those kids were and was pulling them out.
Yeah.
So now you got all the big time football colleges have a pipeline to the pros. So now they say, well, if you want to go to the pros, got to come here. Look how many pros we done. We're like a pro factory. We make pros here. So if you're going to tell me we make pros here, I'm going to go to the school that the pros are being made, opposed to going to a school and struggling, just like David said. But the thing is, a lot of the colleges in the pros, they're entwined. So the HBCUs, think about it. What's the difference between a Pitt and a Morehouse? If you look at all of their best talented kids, they all look like kids from Morehouse.
Right.
But they have a pipeline to the pros.
Yeah.
That pipeline from the pros is what's getting the people to go in there, because if I go here, my likelihood of going to the pros is better. It's just like in basketball. They literally had to create a rule to make kids go to college because college was losing so much money. They lost so much money when kids was like, well, we ain't got to go to college. We can go straight to the pros. College lost so much money. The colleges went to the NBA and said, whoa. all these kids, all our best players can't go straight to the pros. We're losing money. It's
Right.
all about money. So why would the Dukes and the North Carolinas ever let these smaller schools get any of their players, get any of the players that they feel that they can get from them to get money? It's all about finance. It's not about the kids. It's not about their education.
Yeah.
It's
all
all
about the
money.
Benjamins.
Well, I mean, you
It's
follow the
about
money.
the
Yeah,
Benjamins.
you follow the
That's
money
what
to
I'm saying.
anything. You could probably follow the money for anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Guys,
the
Let me jump
last
in
one
with
of the
Devin real quick. Let me jump in with Devin real quick. Let's take a look at a guy like Zion Williams, right? Say Zion Williamson didn't go to Duke. He decided to go to North Carolina A&T. Think about that.
Still would have went to the pros.
He still would have
He
went to the
still went
pros.
first round.
So what that would have done for North Carolina A&T?
Yep.
It would have put them on the map. It would have put them on the map.
Huge on the map.
And see, and that's why I said if one or two or three players decided, okay, this is where we're going or what we're going to do to bring the HBCUs out, then I think more players will start doing it and more funding will follow. But it takes that person that's going to be willing to neglect their pockets or possibly take that, hit to their pockets to do that. But we said we were going to be on for 30 minutes today. So I'm going to wrap it with this last question. I know Cindy had a question about the stereotypes and
I think we addressed it kind of early on. So
okay, so you had that question, and I'm going to do, I'm going to wrap it with this question. Has sports gotten you or kept you guys out of trouble, and in which ways? That's how we'll end it. Because I mean, I know sports gets a lot of people say different things about it, and I know personally in my life with the 6 brothers I have, it's kept them out of trouble. And the one that's in prison has actually said that when PAL left, when that PAL in Brooklyn closed, that's when he started getting in trouble because he did not have the sports, the outlet to keep him off the street, and some place to go and have that camaraderie that we talked about in the beginning. So I know firsthand that it keeps a lot of people out of trouble. So did it keep you guys out of trouble or get you out of trouble? Deb, you go first on that one.
Right. Well, it definitely, I was not a kid that was into a lot of trouble, but it kept me focused. I wasn't a kid that was in trouble. I wasn't a kid that was, even if I was in the streets, I wasn't doing nothing too crazy, but it kept me focused. It kept me knowing that I had to go to school because I had to keep my grades at a certain level because I had to play on the team. I didn't want to be the kid that failed the team because if I failed the team, I failed my teammates. And I didn't want to be that kid walking to school knowing that when everyone's going to practice, you got to go study because you failed. So it kept me focused. It kept me, and I went to a small high school. So it kept me kind of driven. It kept me, you got to go to school, you got to pass your classes, you got to graduate. So it kept me out of trouble. In the neighborhood, I live in a pretty rough neighborhood. A lot of people knew me as just a kid that played ball. So a lot of the drug dealers and the guys that saw me on a Friday night kind of acting stupid, yo, go home. You ain't no troublemaker. You play ball. And the neighborhood knew that. So I was kind of protected almost by the neighborhood, knowing that, yo, he's just, when the thugs want to do something, it's like, yo, leave him alone. He's a ball player. He's one of them kids that's staying out of trouble. Mess with the guys that's sitting on the corner getting in trouble. So it kind of gave me that little bubble that I wasn't causing trouble, but it kept me kind of out of everything. So
before you say something, I just want to say to that, as a teacher, the boys that play basketball were turning their paper just because they knew if they didn't turn in their paper, the teacher was going to not let them play in the tournament. So I was thankful in that, for some of the kids that could be difficult, if they had that tie to something that they love, they were going to hand in their paper and they were going to act right in class. Because I would just look and go, excuse me, you don't want me to call your coach. And so I really appreciate coaches. I really do.
I was going to say, that's the last thing they want you to do is call the coach.
Yeah, because I was calling. I was like, I'm going to call the coach. And I can't be bothered with you. I'm going to call the coach.
Yeah. So what do you think, David? How has it kept you out of trouble? And if so, how?
Yeah, I have to agree that playing sports definitely kept me out of trouble as a inner city youth myself. I also lived in a bad, considerably bad neighborhood. However, I was in pretty much the same boat that Dale was just describing, where I was the kid that, people did not try to influence to do, the drug dealing and the running of the street. However, in terms of staying out of trouble, not having the coaching and the things that I had around me, it actually shaped me to not get in trouble. Because just like Cindy is saying, we had those type of coaches, and of course we, at our age, we lived in those days where we were still getting SWATs in school. So therefore, if you didn't turn in a paper or you did something wrong in school, you wasn't getting suspended. That wasn't the option.
Right.
You was going to see the coach or the principal, and you was getting these SWATs. And then you was getting, the call at home. And then if you had, your father at home or your mom at home, you would then get in the SWATs there. And in my neighborhood, it was some cases where it was passed around the neighborhood. So I might get 2 or 3 spankings before I even make it home to even get that spanking from my father. So it definitely,
that's old school right there.
it was definitely old school where I grew up at. I was that kid where everyone, again, not trying to, sound brash about the way I play basketball, but, looking back on it now, I really wish I would have had some guidance to be able to take it further because of my skill level. But at the same time, I'm also thankful for the people that was there because they gave me the opportunity to not make bad decisions about lifelong things in terms of getting in trouble and going upside my head when I did make some bad choices.
Yeah.
So that way I can get better with those choices later on in life. So I really think sports had something to do with that, and having nice, strong coaches in my background, and those guys, if they're watching out there, they know exactly who they are. That helped, culture my development as a basketball player.
Sorry.
Wow. I think, wow. And see, and I'll say these guys, I know them, they can talk forever on this subject. Because as you see, Dave is like, let me jump in there. Dev is like, let me jump in there. And they'll go back and forth all night long. It's been like 45 minutes and it's been a great conversation about this. And I mean, it just tells you how much sports is embedded in our lifestyle, how it can create the camaraderie, the brotherhood, and just have 2 fellas that have never met before talking about who they think is going to be doing what and why, and pushing back, and how your stories are very congruent, how they kept you off of the street, and the drug dealers on the street. And I remember in the neighborhoods, they would always say, oh, that's the ball player. They don't touch certain kids, and that just protects them. So sports, I mean, it's the fabric of America, and specifically in our, I'll say in our neighborhoods and in our culture, it's a savior in a lot of ways.
It builds community too, like you said early on. It builds character, not community. Character.
Yeah.
Just character. Being able to lose.
Yes, please. No trophy. Nothing is given.
Nothing is given. Being able to lose, man. Being able to lose. These kids are definitely, the kids are definitely jelly back now. Definitely.
Yes, they are. They are. Well, thank you guys for joining us on this Thursday night. I know it was
like last minute
with us trying to put everything together. We truly appreciate you, and thanks for watching. I know some of the people signed off, but we had a few people join in and just chime in, and we just truly appreciate all the support and love that you guys give Poly Chicks. So thanks.
All right, thank you guys.
Oh my gosh.
So thank you guys.
Thanks for having me on.
Thank you again, Devon. You always support. Thank you so much.
No problem.
Thank you guys. Shout out to Northwestern. Shout out to Rains High School.
Really. Dev, you want to shout out?
Shout out to all the stripes out there. All the officials
out there. Where my people at?
Out there, that's out there.
Duval in the house.
Oh my gosh.
All the
All right, I'm just going to say 2 Poly Chicks out.